Hi, this is Alex Gonçalves of Tukiscout.com, and this is the Seleção podcast.
Simões bending one for Torres. Eusebio. Oh my word! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Bem jogado por Simão, a passar por dois adversários. Simão a tentar oferecer o golo a Figo e a bola é golo! O golo de Figo!
Rui Costa já acreditou, vai tirar para o golo, atira golo! 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 Cristiano Ronaldo, vai embora Cristiano Ronaldo! Mete, bateu, golo! Ronaldo! Obrigado, Cristiano! Portugal vai Éder, chuta! Gol!
And we welcome you to episode number 72 of the Seleção podcast, a proud partner of Portugal.net. My name is Danny Pinto. I am your host. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the latest episode of the podcast, as this is a podcast of the Group H winning Seleção at the World Cup. 6 points got the job done for the Seleção to top the group. They will take on Switzerland in the round of 16. And we will talk about, we'll look back at the group and take a look forward, obviously, to the round of 16 with our guest today, which will be Alex Gonçalves of Tukiscout.com. But, of course, before we get started, just wanted to get all the plugs in before we bring in Alex. Go ahead and bookmark our website, selecaopod.com. You can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at selecaopod, facebook.com/selecaopod, and you can email the show selecaopod@gmail.com. Of course, we are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify. We are everywhere where you could go ahead and listen to us via podcasts. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to us on all of those platforms. If you have a rating system or a comment section, go ahead and give us some positive feedback there. It's always good for our show to get some sort of feedback, hopefully of the positive variety, to get this show more visible on podcasting platforms. And, of course, if you're watching us here on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button here or here or here. I don't know where it's at. But go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to us, hit the alerts, do everything you can to help us out in terms of making us more visible as well on YouTube. We've had a great number of subscribers, a bump in subscribers, I should say, in the lead up and during the World Cup, and we want to keep that going, just like we want to keep the Seleção going in this now knockout stage. Before I get to Alex, I just want to make sure that I don't forget to mention that if you've been watching us on YouTube, you now see that I am less of a mustache wearer because November and Movember have come and gone. And I do want to thank everyone who took part in helping support the Movember fundraiser that I did this past November. As of this recording, it is December the 3rd, so it's not that long ago, but this is the first episode that we have done since November has ended. And I mentioned some names last time. I want to get the full list of names of those who donated. Zach Zucker, Ryan Kadima, Jeremy Humphrey, Andrew Gomes, Samson Costa, Bradford Grossman, my wife, Suzette Pinto, who was very happy that the mustache is gone. A huge thank you to João Pedro Teixeira, who, the goal for me was $100 US, and I would match the $100, which I have. And but João Pedro Teixeira said, let's go ahead and just give him $100 right off the bat. And I was absolutely blown away. So I don't have permission to call you JPT, but JPT, greatly appreciate that most generous offer. I did it to raise money to help programs that Movember helps fund. Programs for men's health, men's mental health. Helping men deal with such diseases and illnesses as prostate cancer, testicular cancer. Dealing with the effects of men's suicide, whether it's the person that you've your friend or a close personal loved one that may have taken their lives, or if there's the mental health side of that to not lead to that. Just greatly appreciate everybody who donated and who spread the word. The $300 was more than I thought I could possibly do, just because you just never know what the reach and everyone's situation. But a gran obrigado to all of you who helped donate and get me to the goal that I wanted. And now we get to December, and December means the knockouts of the World Cup, which it never has before, ever in the history of the football. And we're going to go ahead and bring in our friend Alex Gonçalves of tugascout.com. And well, look at that mustache. That is a mustache to be proud of. Look at that thing. Alex, that would raise some money, pal. I'm just going to tell you right now. That would raise some money. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for coming back on the show, bud. How you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me. I always enjoy coming on here, and we're talking in pretty good circumstances, I think, this time. It's a reason to be positive, I think, despite some of the negativity, perhaps.
See, that's called foreshadowing, folks. Yeah, Alex, you would think that, I'll ask you about Friday's match what day? Yeah, Friday's match, because, my days and everything are all mixed up when we record and when we do things, but match day 3, we'll just go with that. We'll talk about match day 3 and the reaction to match day 3 in just a second, but just give me your overall thoughts on Portugal winning Group H, perhaps the manner in which it happened, and just kind of your prospects going forward as Portugal are Group H winners.
I mean, I think it's a big achievement. It was a complicated group, I think we could say, before the tournament started. We were a little bit, as we got close to the tournament, we were wondering if it was going to be perhaps a banana skin. But ultimately, topping that group with 3 prestigious sides and 3 sides from different continents, none European, so they're all slightly unfamiliar. Portugal don't tend to play teams outside of Europe in friendlies nowadays, so it was a little bit unpredictable. So to finish first is a huge achievement. I think I was particularly impressed by beating a South American side in Uruguay. Portugal often struggle against South American teams, so to win that match fairly comfortably in the end was a huge positive. I think overall the performances haven't been excellent. I think we were kind of deceived. I think Fernando Santos said we were going to be dynamic, and he basically suggested we'd be adventurous and exciting, which we haven't really seen.
He says that a lot, Alex.
Yeah, I know. I've got to stop believing it, I guess. But I was hoping we were going to turn a corner on this occasion, but we haven't seen that yet. It doesn't particularly matter. Ultimately, the results are more important in competitions, so I wouldn't be too concerned. We've seen France win the World Cup in 2018, not particularly exciting either. So it's a results-driven business at the moment. So first place, I think we've got to be really, really pleased with that, and to do it with basically a game to spare, because ultimately it was very unlikely we were going to ever lose top spots is incredible, really.
Yeah, the to do it with a game to spare, in essence, well, qualifying for sure with a game to spare was a nice change of pace for considering how we love to leave it to the end and leaving it to the absolutely last minute. But yeah, they qualified for the group. They were one of only 2 teams in the tournament to win their first 2 matches, joining France and Brazil. Also joining France and Brazil was losing on match day 3, and we'll get to the match now. Obviously, Portugal didn't need a result if the result in the other match between Uruguay and Ghana went a certain way, and it kind of reflected the lineup, in my opinion, in that scenario, because given that the round of 16. Still, the cards don't reset, and you don't want to have anyone pick up a second card in the group play. You saw João Felix sit, you saw Bruno Fernandes sit, you saw Ruben Dias sit. The other 2 on yellow cards are Danilo, who is out for now. I just don't see him coming back given the injury. And then Ruben Neves played on a yellow yesterday and played the majority of the match. So, given the situation that Portugal was in, Fernando Santos makes, for a lack of a better term, wholesale changes to the lineup. And they started off well. First 5 minutes, a ball from Pep finds Diogo Dalot, who got the start at the right back, which I think is going to be a permanent thing, hopefully going forward. And finding Ricardo Horta to open up the game in the first 5 minutes. And to me, Alex, that plus the next 15 minutes of both group matches just kind of deflated any kind of attack-minded ideas for the Seleção in terms of trying to win the match. What do you think?
No, I think that's true. I think the first 5 minutes were obviously very good. Portugal took the lead, but it was very typical of Portugal to then kind of just sit back and not really go for that second goal. And I think we saw it. Hopefully, it's just a case of the fact that Portugal didn't really need the second goal in this instance. But yeah, I would describe the performance as flat, really. It was kind of it was a non-event. It was professional is not the wrong word because Portugal lost, so it can't be professional, but it was very just pedestrian almost. It was there wasn't too much to get excited about. And I think that's probably just because of the circumstances. Players were trying to maybe preserve some energy because they knew what was coming around the corner. It was already wrapped up, basically. So, yeah, it's a difficult one because you don't want to read too much into it because it's a completely different game to any of the others that Portugal are going to play. And if there's one positive to say, it's that if you're going to lose a game, this is the absolutely perfect game to do so in the World Cup because it makes no difference. So if they get that out of their system and it gives them a bit of a kick, to go again and to improve, then that can only be a positive thing. But I agree that it was a bit deflating after that first 5 minutes or after that first 15 or so minutes. It was just a little bit. There wasn't much to discuss. But I will say that Pep's pass to Diogo Dalot was phenomenal. He was very good. I thought he was pretty solid. I thought Antonio Silva was also pretty solid, despite conceding 2 goals. I thought they were both encouraging performances. And of course, Diogo Dalot was a bright spot as well. And I think Vitinha was also was very exciting, very good on the ball. He looked like he wanted to make things happen, so he was a bright spot as well.
Yeah, I think Vitinha has based off of yesterday is a definite option off of the bench for Fernando Santos going forward in this World Cup. And yeah, Diogo Dalot. I mean, the situation presented itself in a number of ways with the defense because Alex, we're going to go into this 4th match of the World Cup, and Fernando Santos, for all intents and purposes, is going to go with his 4th different back line. He started Rafael Guerreiro at left back because Nuno Mendes couldn't go in the first match. Had Danilo paired up with Ruben Dias, and then had João Cancelo on the right. In the second match, you have Nuno Mendes come in, was playing great, and then of course the hamstring gives way. Pep was in with Ruben Dias, and you still had Cancelo on the right. This third match, Cancelo was still in, but playing left, something that some people have called for in the past. It's hard to take someone, if he's healthy, like Nuno Mendes off the pitch, off the left. But we got to see, I thought, a better João Cancelo, not great, but a better João Cancelo on the left. Diogo Dalot, I thought, impressed very much on the right. And then you had the pairing of Pep and Antonio Silva. But again, the defense has been a little bit of an issue. I think the back is primarily in defending, whether it be a set piece or just it's been a little shaky. And for there to be again another change, likely, which would be the 4th different back line, that gives me a little bit of concern. But given that it's likely Ruben Dias and Pep, that partnership is obviously one that they're familiar with each other, and Fernando Santos is obviously very comfortable with. And then I think I'd be hard pressed to have Rafael Guerreiro come back, given how well Diogo Dalot played and how much better I think João Cancelo is at left back than Rafael Guerreiro is. What are your thoughts on the back 4 going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You do kind of want a stable back 4 in a tournament. You want to know what your best back line is. And obviously having 3 different combinations so far suggests that maybe we're still not quite sure. We haven't quite figured that out. And of course, the injury to Nuno Mendes is a big blow as well. What I would say is that the 2 goals that Portugal conceded against South Korea really are just kind of self-inflicted. I wouldn't put too much blame on the centre backs in that regard. The first one comes off Ronaldo. I'm not sure what he's doing for that goal. The second one is bizarre because I don't know why Portugal have committed so many men forwards on the corner. It was ridiculous, really, because they were really. It suggests they were pushing for the winner, but I don't really see how they push so many men forward into the box. And when you know that South Korea are dangerous on the counter attack and they're really pushing for the goal, so I think that we want a stable backline, but equally, I think that every option is really capable. That's the beauty of this Portugal squad at the moment. There's a lot of depth there. I have full confidence in pretty much whatever backline Fernando Santos chooses. I would like to see Ruben Dias and Pep probably again, and I agree with you, Diogo Dalot on the right, Cancelo on the left. But equally, if Guerreiro's there instead, I'm not too concerned about it. If Antonio Silva, for some reason, starts the next game, that's fine too. I have a lot of confidence in all of the defenders. So I guess that's why, in this instance, I'm not too concerned that the backline hasn't been, as stable as you'd like in a tournament, really.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point on both of the goals. Ronaldo, I don't know what he was doing. It seemed like he was, I don't know if he just expected that ball not to hit him, which the whole point of you being in the box is to see the ball come in just and attack and get the ball out. And then, of course, the timing of deciding to play almost like you said for a result, which is fine. given the I mean, if they would have won, great. If they lost, great, or not great, but the result was going to be the same in terms of where they finished in the group. And we'll talk about, I guess, a little bit in a second. We'll talk about momentum here, but the timing of, they can never find that second goal in terms of the counter, because they knew that South Korea needed a result after going up. Well, they needed a result no matter what, but given that they were up 1-0, they're going to maybe play back a little bit, given that it was 2-0 in the Uruguay-Ghana game. But once it got to a deficit or a spot where South Korea needed the result, I was always waiting for that classic Fernando Santos counter that we saw so much in 2016, where let the opposition come at us in waves. We'll sit back because it's what Fernando Santos likes to do. But given that the team is in a better situation attacking wise with the talent that we have, I was always waiting for that counter to kind of put South Korea away. Not that we needed it, but it's just the circumstances of the match, and it never really presented itself for Portugal until the very end, which was the curious part. And as you mentioned, so many players up front, and then you just see the sprint back to defend Son's run, and 2-1 is the result of that one. But let's talk about momentum. Is there something to be said for losing momentum heading into the round of 16, given that Portugal, A, lost their last match, and B, didn't have some of their better players that have been playing well. I go right to Bruno Fernandes. He didn't make, I don't know if he was even on the team sheet. I'm sure he was in case they needed him, but he has been by far the best player for Portugal in the first 3 matches, but he didn't play. It was an opportunity to have some young players and players sit, or some young players play and some other players sit because of yellows. But is the result on match day 3 a loss to South Korea? Is that a momentum killer in your opinion for this Seleção?
I would probably put it the other way and say that it's kind of like maybe the wake-up call that Portugal needed, being positive about it. I think that there is some truth that it does hit the momentum that Portugal had. Obviously, it's maybe a bit of a demoralizer. The other good thing, though, is that, as you say, it happened to Brazil, it happened to France. They both lost on their final game. So, some of the big rivals had the same issue. So I think that it's disappointing to end with a defeat. Of course it is. But equally, I think that, as you say as well, the changes, they're a big factor, and I think the players understand that it's they're very professional. They've got a great mentality. That's the one great thing about this group of Portuguese players. They've got an excellent mentality, and I think they realise that it's one of those games. Move on to the next one. This is when the tournament really begins, I guess, and So I think that the momentum maybe slightly hit, but ultimately I think that they're also professional enough to know that it's just one of those things. There were changes. There wasn't the full strength side, so we go again. We go again against Switzerland, and hopefully they manage to rebound quickly.
Yeah, we're talking with Alex Gonçalves of tugascout.com. He's kind enough to join us on episode number 72 of the Seleção podcast. There was a lot of, I'll just go ahead with reaction after match. We know it was yesterday. Guys, we're recording this on Saturday. There it is. I'm trying to reset it, but whatever. So yesterday's match comes and goes. We lose 2-1. No one likes to lose, but I'm of the opinion that the match was kind of done and dusted. Half hour in, the result didn't matter. What needed to happen happened in the first two matches, which was to get the 2 wins, put yourself into the knockouts, and then hopefully see it out to win the group and avoid Brazil, which we have. We can't control that Spain finished second in a group with Japan. It looks on the other side of the bracket that it looks to be an easier road for teams like Brazil, for teams like Argentina, because they are likely, and we've seen some upsets, but Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia, and that was in the opening match when everything was to play for. But no, was it Saudi Arabia? It was.
Argentina.
Yeah. Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia, correct? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's 32 teams to track here, Alex. But I mean, could the road to quote unquote the final have been easier if we were on the other side of the bracket? Yeah, in theory. But Spain to me hasn't impressed, and while we don't have a great track record against Spain, they haven't impressed me. So if we're lucky enough to get through Switzerland, with the likelihood that Spain beats Morocco, that's a match that I am not afraid of from the Seleção point of view. What awaits us after that, if we're lucky enough to get through, is the likelihood of either England or France. That's a tough road. But there was so much negativity yesterday that I just didn't understand, because the way we got to where we are now was such the Fernando Santos way of doing things, which was getting it done soon so that you don't have to struggle and torture yourself on that last day. I could only imagine if it was left up to yesterday and something bad happened, and it's like, why couldn't we have gotten it done in the first 2 games? And for all intents and purposes, we did get it done in the first 2 games, and yet there was still like, oh, this is typical Fernando Santos football. They never go on the front foot. It's always I have been one of the biggest criticizers, and I don't understand why he's still the manager. I just don't, Alex. But I couldn't find much fault with him yesterday, because he did what needed to be done. He made sure that they won the group. He got out of that match with South Korea without accumulating any more yellows to anyone who was already on a yellow or anyone else getting a yellow. And until we hear something from the medical staff, I'm guessing we came out injury-free. What more do you want, considering that the team put itself in a position that it never does, which is, in essence, a game in hand, and yet still it's complaining. I know it's the easy thing to do, but yesterday I just didn't understand yesterday.
I agree with all of that. I agree with, and especially with the brackets. I don't think it particularly minds which side you end up, because ultimately
it's hard to win a World Cup no matter what, Alex.
Exactly this, and if you're going to win the World Cup, by the time you get to the semi-finals, it is going to be a very difficult team anyway. If you're lucky enough to get that far. So, also another thing is, this may seem illogical because of how poor Germany looked. Well, I don't even think they were too bad. I think between Spain and Germany, there wasn't much difference. Germany were just quite unlucky in the Japan game, but I would much rather play Spain than Germany.
Oh, me too.
So, I mean, I'm fairly pleased that's ultimately how it worked out, because I think that Portugal will have a better chance against Spain than Germany. I agree. I think that yesterday there was a big overreaction, but from some, I don't think it was a majority. I think it's maybe a loud minority that are a little bit irritated. And
the loud minority follows me on Twitter, Alex. So
yeah, well, they're loud. They're loud. It's unfortunate, but I think that the frustration is understandable. You always want to see the team win, of course. that's a given. I wanted to see Portugal win yesterday. I wanted to see them end on a high. Play with a bit of adventure, nothing to lose, and we didn't really see either of those things. Did we? We didn't see the victory, we didn't see the adventure. So it was a bit of a lose-lose in that sense. But equally, it just doesn't matter really. It's just one of those things that can happen. I think Fernando Santos made the right changes. I think he rested the players that needed resting. I think he protected players on yellow cards. And I think we've also just got to give a lot of credit to South Korea because they played an excellent game. It was they kind of suffocated the pitch. They played a very deep line, very low block. So it was Portugal obviously tend to struggle against teams like that aren't pressing as high and there's not much space to pass into or to run in behind. So they played a really smart game and they did that for pretty much 80 minutes. They left it very late until they started to open up and press Portugal a little higher. They were very disciplined, very organized. They had a great energy about them and they worked really hard. So they played the perfect game, you could say, against Portugal. And you could say maybe that's because Paulo Bento knows how Portugal play. Maybe a little bit slower. They like to pass a little bit more and they have those threats in behind. So they played a nice compact style. So South Korea played really well. I think if Portugal had to win this game, it would have gone differently. I that's just my honest belief. I don't think it would have panned out the way it did if the situation was different. So I just don't think we can read too much into it ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's not like it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s where you're listening to, you're hopefully, if you're at one stadium, you're hopefully trying to get some sort of result from the other stadium and you're hoping to find out what's going on. I mean, everything is right here and everyone's got one and you knew exactly what was going on in that match. So given that it was a goal to your side and then 2 goals to Uruguay with your biggest competition of winning the group down, in essence, at least 3 goals, it was pretty much done and dusted. But again, I'm with you though. I understand wanting them to win. Of course, I want them to win. I want them to win every game. I would love to see the players that came on have a positive game. Some did, some didn't. But I think yesterday was just about getting through and just getting it over with. And I think it's a credit to, and I can't believe I'm saying this, it's a credit to Fernando Santos from the first 2 matches because, again, this team put itself in a situation to where yesterday didn't matter. And that is so rare under Fernando Santos, where matches in group play, matches in qualifying, whatever it is, they very rarely leave it up, or they always leave it up to the end. And more times than not, in the last couple of years, it hasn't gone our way. The team. I keep on saying he because I want to give him some sort of credit here because I always crap on the guy. But yeah, I'll give him credit. He put the team in a situation where we didn't need anything from yesterday. And after the first 20, 30 minutes of that match and the other match, it pretty much came to fruition. So I'm not going to criticize Fernando Santos much over yesterday. I'm not going to criticize him for finishing first, for taking care of the guys on yellows. I thought as a manager, he did exactly what he needed to do. That is as far in terms of praise as I'm going to give Fernando Santos over that. Now, I will have my critique here of yesterday. I am a bit tired and I'm just a bit through with the attitude that Cristiano Ronaldo has on the field, especially when there are players that hasn't played much with on the national team, younger players. And given that he's at the point of his career where, and I'm not going to try to take a shot at him for the sake of taking a shot, but I'm just going to tell you what I feel here. If Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be like this the rest of his Seleção career, I'm looking forward to when it's over. And it's not so much on the field with the ball at his feet or when he's in the air. It's the attitude. Because what the attitude shows me is that he still thinks that he is the player of 5, 6, 7 years ago. Hell, even 2, 3 years ago, when he's banging 2, 3 goals at a time during qualifying and in group stages of tournaments. He's not that player anymore. And it's okay for him not to be that player anymore. I still think he has a huge amount of positivity to bring to this team solely by being on the field. The defense always needs to know, the opposing defense always needs to know where he is. But I am at a point where I just can't with the attitude that he presents on that field when he does not get the ball. Prime example. I need accountability from him. And that first goal was his fault. And there wasn't a hand raised. There wasn't a, oh, you know what? That's my fault. I'm sorry, guys. That's on me. But yet, when Ricardo Horta is, on a goal, has a little bit of room and takes a shot, it's this. And for those on YouTube, you just saw my reaction. It's like he waves his arms in the air. He's open all the time, and I get that. Great players are always open. Great goal scorers are always open. I get that. But it just comes off so petulant, especially at this point of his career, where the results on the field, and now I will talk about on the field, where his results on the field are not mirroring the need to react that way. That is as I told Alex on right before we came on, that is my spicy meatball. What do you say about that?
I think that Ronaldo's it's been a tough time, let's say, for him. I think that, he's struggling maybe to adjust to what his new capabilities are, perhaps. Who knows? Maybe he will prove us all wrong and come back as the guy of 5 or 6 years ago, as he said. But at the moment, there's been no evidence of that. And I think that you're absolutely right. I think that he almost gives like an air of negativity. It's
not almost, Alex. To me, it's negative on the field from him. And again, I don't fault him for being 37 and not being able to play like he has before. I get that. That's not the knock I have on him. I still think that another example, the goal that Rafael Leão scored in that first match, not a credit 100% to Cristiano Ronaldo, but he draws the defense to the other side. That gives Bruno Fernandes the ability to find Rafael Leão on the left side, and then it's smooth sailing for that goal. He's still a huge part of this national team, and I get that, and I want him to be. But God, if his results on the field do not match or do not merit the attitude that I see and am perceiving from him. How about I'll just say that because, yeah, he's gone through a lot. I'm not going to say that he hasn't, and he's going through a lot right now. But on the field, you can kind of sometimes just put that aside and just play within the lines and kind of have your safe space there. But it just seems like anything that doesn't go his way on the attacking side, it's just a negative reaction, and I'm a little over it.
No, I agree. But and the thing is, that's kind of been one of my frustrations with him throughout his career. Even when he was at the peak of his powers, he was always just a little bit too negative. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is the word. It's just a little bit too maybe self-centered in the way that he always wants to get on the ball. And that's great. We want players that are willing to get on the ball and make a difference. But it's just it does give the impression of kind of disturbing the harmony almost, because it's so constant, his desire to get on. And I guess it is just a case of being that passionate about wanting to succeed. It's not a negative in that sense, but it gives that impression that it's just a little bit too self-centered, and it does give a negative impression. What I will say is that he still brings so much to this team in terms of mentality and his leadership. You saw him consoling Diogo Costa after his mistake in the first game. He's still a massive. That's the kind of the contradiction here is that he's still a really positive impact. He's a great mentality monster in that he can lift players. Players in the Portugal team still speak so highly of him. He's still considered the main man. And maybe it's just a case of the visual. That's how it comes across when we're watching the game. But actually, in reality, it's very different. I think the Portugal players still have incredible respect for him. He's still considered the leader. He's still considered the main man. So yeah, it's I don't know. The optics is the word, I guess, is that it gives that image of a bit of negativity. Well, maybe that's just not the case because he's been like this, remember, for his whole career, basically. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think optics are a good is a good term here because we don't know what goes on in the locker room from everything that I've heard. He's always a supportive player in that locker room. A great example you mentioned was when Diogo Costa had the blunder that he had in the first match. He's just like, hey, we won. It's move on, and that is a good leader. I guess for me, the optics of how it looks, given that the results don't merit that reaction, is something that I wish he would do better at. So I guess you've talked me a little bit off that ledge. and again, I'm not saying this for clicks. I'm not saying this for that's just what I feel. But I think you've been able to have a more sensible approach to it. And Alex, I appreciate that. I really do. We're talking with Alex Gonçalves here of tugascout.com here on episode number 72 of the Seleção podcast. Let's talk about the positive, which is this team getting to the round of 16. A familiar foe against Switzerland as they played twice this past summer in the Nations League. Portugal beating Switzerland at home 4-0, losing to Switzerland away 1-0 during the Nations League in June. What do you think of this matchup against the Swiss coming up on Tuesday, December the 6th?
It's a scary match. Playing against top European teams is always very tricky. Switzerland maybe not have the name of some of the big European countries, but they've proven that they are more than capable of competing at this level and get to the knockout rounds of major competitions regularly nowadays. They've got a lot of players playing in the top 4, top 5 divisions in Europe. It's a very, very capable squad. They're very well organized. They play a certain way and they're very good at it. They're dangerous, and Portuguese football fans know that more than anyone, really. We've met, they've beaten us a couple of times in recent years. I would say it's probably the toughest round of 16 match. It's probably the closest round of 16 match of them all on paper, at least. It couldn't be much more difficult in terms of second place teams or teams that finish second place. Obviously, Spain, of course, but the second place teams generally, Switzerland are for sure one of the tougher options. So it's a scary match. I would give maybe a 60-40 in Portugal's favour in this one. I think it's going to be that close. It's going to be very cagey. It's going to be difficult, but it's exciting. This is what we're here for. We want to play great teams. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to see what Portugal are capable of. But I would say that I'm nervous for this one. Actually, I think I'm more nervous about Switzerland in the round of 16 than a potential clash with Spain in the quarterfinals, because it's a match that Portugal should win. Really. They've got the talent to do it, but I have a feeling that it could be really difficult, this one. And then when you're playing Spain in the quarterfinals, listen, anything can happen. When you're in the last 8, you've got a real chance, and Spain is, it's a tough match, and it will be, and you know what to expect. But with Switzerland, I think that because Portugal are expected to win, but Switzerland are as good as they are, it's a little tense. I'll be honest. I don't know how you feel about it.
Given that it's a familiar foe, and since I'm pulling up the numbers here, since 2016, 2017, Portugal and Switzerland have faced off 5 times, 3 wins for Portugal, 2 wins for Switzerland. So it seems to be a even matchup for the most part. I still believe that this team, this national team for Portugal, they should beat Switzerland. I think looking at the rankings, the world rankings of the teams that are left in the round of 16, this matchup I think is the closest in terms of. I believe Portugal is 9. I believe Switzerland is 15. We don't have the number 1 Brazil against the number 38 Australia or 28 Australia or 28 South Korea, and Argentina at 2 and Australia at 38. We're not having that, so it is a very even match. But it is one that I feel that Portugal can definitely win. And honestly, Alex, they should win. If Portugal is at their, I guess we'll say this: if Portugal is at their best and Switzerland is at their best, Portugal is going to win the game, and should win the game because they just have, I think, more firepower in the attack. given that the back line that I'm projecting to have might be our best back line that we have in terms of what we have available left. I think it does give us an opportunity to be stronger back there, depending on what Fernando Santos does in the midfield, especially at the defensive mid. We'll see if it's Ruben Neves again or if it's João Palhinha. I think you'll see William again in the starting lineup, but overall, I feel that they should go through and get to the quarterfinals, given the matchup. Would it shock me if they didn't? No, it would be very disappointing if they didn't. But I do think this is a matchup that Portugal can definitely win. And given the history of playing Switzerland this summer, I mean, they put 4 goals by them in Portugal. We're not playing in Portugal. We're playing in Qatar. We're playing in a stadium again that they have played already. So maybe there's some familiarization and some comfortability there. I'm not sure if Switzerland has played in the stadium that they're playing in on Tuesday, but I will say that as matchups go, it's even. But I do like Portugal's chances very much in getting to the quarterfinals for sure.
I completely agree with that, and I like the optimism a lot. I think that you're spot on. It's a game that Portugal should win, but we've just seen this be a banana skin for Portugal a couple of times already. That just adds to the tension. And I think it's also just the expectation is Portugal should win this match. And if they don't win, it will be a huge disappointment. It's not like you're playing at Spain in the quarterfinals. And if Portugal lose to Spain in the quarterfinals, and that's what happens, you go, listen, it's a tough opposition. As long as Portugal, played well and it was a balanced game, then you can't really have too many complaints. If you lose to Switzerland in the round of 16, it's like it's a huge missed opportunity. It's a match that Portugal should be winning. But yeah, I can't shake that tension of just, we've seen this before, we've seen this go badly before, and Switzerland are a very capable team. And but your positivity does, it helps me, it calms me a little bit. But I don't know, it's a tough one. It's pretty much the toughest match Portugal could have had in terms of the second place teams.
Yeah, there's a part of me that kind of wanted another shot at Serbia, but
you see, actually,
but I'm also not unhappy that we didn't get them again. But
no, I mean, I would rather.
I'd much rather go forward and have Serbia go home. So. That's just, given what happened in Serbia, sometime last year during qualifying. So
no, I agree with that completely. And also Serbia, I prefer Switzerland to Serbia. I think purely because their 2 front men in Serbia are just ridiculous, like 2 extremely talented target men. That is so difficult to defend against. And then you've got of course the creativity of the likes of Tadic as well. So they've got a really good, and this has been a very disappointing campaign for them. They've ultimately ended up finishing last in that group, and that's it shows that the European qualification doesn't really mean much. As long as you get there, anything can happen after that. But I have to say, Serbia very underwhelming. I think they should have performed better this tournament.
Yeah, the physicality that the Serbian side also presents, it might have been an issue, I should say, and has been. I mean, we've seen 2 matches just recently where their physicality was a little bit of an issue for the Seleção. So let's, I kind of brought you in a little bit to what I like to call the hopium den, Alex. But let's say we get through to and did I save the there it is. Let's go ahead and there it is. Alex Gonçalves enters the Seleção podcast hopium den. Let's say we get past the round of 16. We beat Switzerland. I have been of the opinion, Alex, and I will stick by this opinion, that I feel that Portugal, and it could have been Uruguay too, but given that Uruguay didn't make it, and I was expecting both Portugal and Uruguay to make it out. Portugal held their end of the bargain. Uruguay did not, and Portugal is in first place. At the beginning or before this tournament, I was of the opinion that if everything fell the way it's supposed to, that Portugal would make it to the semifinals, given that Spain should have been on the other side. But I felt that Portugal was on their way to the semifinals if they won Group H. I still am going to go with that opinion, barring any injury. But I still feel that Portugal can definitely get through Switzerland. And honestly, a game against Morocco would make me more nervous than a game against Spain. And it kind of goes to what you were saying, where it's like it would be such a difference in contrast in terms of the reaction. If we beat Spain and go to the semifinals, we're through the roof. If we lose to Morocco, it is, and again, no disrespect to Morocco. I'm not familiar with the Moroccan national team as much as I probably should be. But if you're not, I just don't, and I don't know it, and I'm okay with myself on this podcast saying that I'm not aware as much as I should be on the Moroccan national team. But you used the word optics when we were talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. The optics of losing to Morocco with a chance to go to the semifinals, I think, would be such a huge letdown. But I feel, no matter whether it's Morocco or Spain, I feel that Portugal is going to beat Switzerland, and I feel that they're going to go ahead and beat the winner of Spain, Morocco. As I leave the hopium den, and I now let you enter the hopium den. Do you share that same that same optimism in terms of how far Portugal can go, or has Spain kind of thrown a wrench in maybe that thinking on your end?
Well, you know what? Actually, I agree. And I think that Portugal's chances of reaching the semi-finals have been enhanced because, of course, it looked like for a long time it was going to be Germany.
The hopium den, folks. It's the hopium den. Come on. Let's go.
The powers. You can't hold them back. It's because as we said before, we'd rather face Spain than Germany in the quarterfinals. And if Germany had beaten Costa Rica as they did and Spain had drawn against Japan, we'd be looking at Germany in the quarterfinals and we'd be going, well, that's just, Portugal never beat Germany. We've got no chance. It could be ugly. So when you're playing Spain, it's a very balanced game. We played them twice recently. We drew once. We lost very late on in the other one. It's a 50-50 game. And so I agree that Portugal have everything required to reach the semifinals. And when you reach the semifinals, anything can happen. And I agree with the Morocco point. I think that if there's going to be an upset in this round of 16, I can see either being Portugal and Switzerland, if you can consider Switzerland winning an upset, which I don't know if you can particularly. If there's going to be a true upset, I think it's Morocco beating Spain. I think that's a huge possibility. I've been really impressed by Morocco this tournament, topping a very difficult group, actually. Ahead of both Belgium, Croatia, and Canada, who also impressed, despite not getting any points. They did well. I think that's a huge achievement, and they're very dangerous on the flanks. You've got Hakimi and Mazraoui on the fullbacks, that arguably the best fullback duo in world football, and they're Moroccan. So it's huge credit to them. I think that'd be a very dangerous game. Obviously, yeah, I agree. You prefer to play Morocco in the sense that it should be easier, but at the same time, the optics. If you lose that game, it looks disastrous, and it's just a huge disappointment. Whereas if you lose to Spain, it's like, well, that's how it is. But I agree completely. Portugal have everything required to reach the semi-finals, and when you're in the last four, you've got a 25% chance of winning the whole thing, basically. So I guess it's time to get excited, really.
Look at this. I like this. This is a nice little ending to the episode here. So Alex thinks that we're winning the World Cup. This is nice. This is nice. This has been one hell of a trip to the hopium den, Alex.
Well, that's just powerful. It's powerful stuff.
Well, yeah, and again, it's a lot of mixed emotion, a lot of mixed reaction. I think over the last by the time people hear this, the last 24 hours, what we're hoping is that, again, Portugal did their part. They won the group. They avoided the yellow cards. I'm not expecting, again, I'm knocking on this fabricated wood that is my desk. I don't think we're expecting any kind of injury news or anything that we kind of saw from the game against South Korea that is kind of pressing or kind of worrisome. But again, we have a few days between now and training, and a few days between now and the match, and there are some training days, obviously. So I'm sure that the technical team and the medical team are going to make sure that these players are in tip-top shape as absolutely possible heading into Tuesday's match against Switzerland. But yeah, Alex, I think you and I are of the opinion that this is a match that Portugal should win. would be fairly disappointing if they didn't and get knocked out again in the round of 16.
Yes.
But we are of the opinion that it should be the result that goes our way, and hopefully a matchup the following weekend in the quarterfinals between either Spain or Morocco. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the job's been done for the first part of it. You qualify, you win the group, and you have all your players that are available for you outside of injuries, and all to play for against Switzerland in the round of 16.
Yeah, exactly this. It's I agree completely. Switzerland are going to be tough. It's going to be a scary game, but equally Portugal should come out on top. And then the road to victory is there. We can see it now. We can see the route, and it's getting tense but exciting, isn't it? This is the business end of the tournament.
Yeah, this is where the fun begins. Absolutely. Yeah, we thank Alex Gonçalves here of Tuga Scout.com. You could follow Alex on Twitter. That's at Al Jeeves. That's ALJEEVES. Am I pronouncing that correct, Alex?
That is spot on.
Okay, all right. And then you can also follow bookmark tugascout.com and also follow Tuga Scout on Twitter at Tuga Scout PT. Alex, my thanks to you, and enjoy the rest of the tournament. Hopefully it's a long one for the Seleção, and hopefully we'll be celebrating the round of 16, perhaps a quarterfinal win. Who knows what happens in the semis?
Who knows?
God willing, there's a final that we're in. Maybe we're hoisting a trophy.
Oh,
maybe my life goes completely bonkers if that happens. But my thanks to you always for supporting the pod and coming on once again. It was great having you back, and we look forward to the next time.
Brilliant. No, absolute pleasure, and keep up the good work. It's great to listen.
Appreciate it, sir. All right, that was Alex Gonçalves of tugascout.com. That will do it for us here on episode number 72 of the Seleção podcast. I have been your host, Danny Pinto. My thanks to Alex Gonçalves for coming on. We, of course, are a proud partner of Portugal.net. We are in the round of 16. Switzerland is on the horizon on Tuesday, December the 6th. All to play for, folks. It is, like I mentioned to Alex, the fun begins right now. And as always, Força Portugal!